It was a humid evening in a small coastal town in the Philippines. The streets buzzed with life, vendors selling roasted corn, children playing barefoot games, and families strolling to the town plaza. At the very heart of that plaza stood an old community stage, built from creaking wooden planks and covered with colorful string lights. That night, the town was hosting its annual music festival. People from nearby villages had gathered, filling the air with anticipation, laughter, and the comforting aroma of street food. Among the crowd stood a young boy named Miguel, only 12 years old. He wasn't dressed like the other contestants who wore glittering outfits and styled hair. Instead, Miguel wore a faded white shirt, a pair of hand-me-down jeans, and old slippers that had seen better days. In his hands, he clutched a guitar so worn out that parts of the wood were chipped, the strings mismatched, and the polish long faded. Yet, he held it with the reverence of a man carrying his life's most precious treasure. Miguel had lived a life far from easy. His father had passed away when he was only 6, leaving his mother to raise him and his younger sister, Anna. To help the family, Miguel often worked in the rice fields after school, earning just enough to keep food on the table. But despite the hardship, music was his escape. Every night, after his chores, he would sit by the window, strumming his old guitar, teaching himself songs he overheard from neighbors or caught faintly on the radio. One of those songs was Hotel California. The first time he heard it, something in Miguel's heart stirred. The haunting melody, the soulful guitar chords, it felt as though the song carried a piece of his own struggles and dreams. Though he barely understood all the lyrics at first, he knew it was special. He practiced it for months, his small fingers blistering from the strings, until he could play it with confidence. That night at the festival, Miguel signed up as the last performer. The announcer called his name, and the boy walked timidly onto the stage. The chatter in the audience grew louder. Some people whispered about his ragged appearance, others chuckled at the sight of the old guitar. A few even questioned why a child from the rice fields would dare to perform on such a stage. Miguel stood frozen for a moment, staring at the sea of faces before him. His mother sat quietly at the back, holding Anna in her lap, her eyes silently encouraging him. He closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and whispered to himself, "This is for you, Papa." He strummed the first chords of Hotel California, and the crowd's laughter slowly subsided. His voice, clear, raw, and filled with emotion, cut through the humid night air. Though small in stature, Miguel sang with the soul of someone who had lived far beyond his years. Every lyric carried weight, every note seemed to tell the story of loss, resilience, and hope. By the second verse, the plaza had fallen into complete silence. Even the restless children stopped playing and turned their eyes to the stage. The once dismissive murmurs were replaced by awe. People could not believe that such a powerful, haunting voice came from a boy so young. As he reached the chorus, Miguel's voice trembled with emotion, his eyes glistening. It was as if he was pouring every hardship, every dream, every ounce of love for his family into the song. Some members of the audience began to wipe their eyes. An elderly man in the front row whispered, "That boy, he sings with his heart." Unexpectedly, as Miguel played the iconic guitar solo, the lights flickered, and the sound system crackled. For a moment, everyone feared the performance would be ruined. But Miguel didn't stop. With fearless determination, he leaned into his guitar, letting the pure acoustic sound carry through the night. The silence of the crowd amplified his music, making every note feel more intimate, more personal. It was no longer just a performance, it was a testimony of resilience. By the time he sang the final line, the audience was in tears. Mothers held their children tighter, fathers nodded with quiet respect, and strangers who had never spoken before found themselves sharing tissues. Miguel finished with his head bowed, unsure of how the crowd would react. For a heartbeat, there was only silence. Then, the plaza erupted with thunderous applause, cheers, and even standing ovations. Some people shouted, "Encore! Encore!" Miguel looked up, his eyes wide in disbelief. For the first time, he felt seen, not as a poor farm boy, not as a fatherless child, but as an artist whose voice had touched hearts. His mother wept quietly in the back, holding Anna close. It was a moment of triumph, not just for Miguel, but for his entire family. Among the crowd was an American tourist named Daniel, a retired musician who had once played in bands across the U.S. He had been traveling the Philippines for leisure but had stumbled upon the festival by chance. As he listened to Miguel, his heart ached with both admiration and regret for the music career he had left behind. After the performance, Daniel approached Miguel and his mother, introducing himself. "Young man," he said, "your voice, it carries something rare, something pure. The world needs to hear you." Miguel blushed, unsure how to respond. But Daniel wasn't just offering compliments, he offered help. Over the following weeks, Daniel guided Miguel, teaching him techniques, recording his songs, and eventually uploading one of his performances online. Within days, the video went viral, spreading across platforms in the Philippines, then Asia, and soon, around the world. The title read, "Young Filipino Boy Sings Hotel California, Audience in Tears Heartbreak Musical Notes." Comments poured in. "This boy's voice healed my soul. I don't understand Tagalog, but I understand his heart. This is why I believe in humanity, pure, raw talent like his." The story touched millions, not just because of Miguel's voice, but because of his journey. He became a symbol of resilience, proof that greatness can come from the most unexpected places. Soon, invitations arrived for him to perform at schools, events, and even international stages. With every performance, Miguel carried his family's story, honoring his late father and lifting his mother's burdens. But Miguel never let fame change him. Despite offers of wealth and luxury, he remained humble, often returning to his village to play free concerts for children who reminded him of himself. He would tell them, "Dreams are not limited by where you come from. They are only limited if you stop believing." Years later, standing on a grand stage in Los Angeles, Miguel performed Hotel California, once again, this time in front of thousands. As the spotlight bathed him in golden light, he thought back to that small wooden stage in his village, the worn-out guitar, and the night when an entire town cried with him. He smiled, knowing that his journey was not just about music, it was about proving that kindness, perseverance, and hope could transform lives. When the final note faded, the crowd rose in thunderous applause. Miguel bowed, tears streaming down his face, and whispered softly, "This is for you, Papa." And in that moment, the world felt a little more connected, a little more compassionate, reminded that sometimes, the most powerful voices come from the most humble places. Sparkle's ending message for narration. This is not just a story about a boy and a song. It's about resilience, about hope, about believing in dreams no matter how impossible they seem. Because sometimes, the smallest voices carry the loudest echoes in our hearts.